Nick,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I got the specials on for you.
Always good, always good. It kind of makes me feel a little bit more at home for a
That's what
band
I
from.
didn't know where to go. I could have gone all like reggae. Like I thought about, like I could like put something like traditional, but I thought you struck me more like a specials kind of guy.
Well, it's history, isn't it? I straddle both places, so it works out perfectly. Bit of the Caribbean, bit of the UK.
You know what I love about ska is that it will always come back. Like, if you
It never
play
goes out of fashion.
well, it does, but then it comes back, right? So like if you play the trombone and you've been in a ska band, right, and you kind of like resume your normal life, like you stop being a touring musician, you know
Yeah,
that in like 10 to 15 years after the kid's out of school, you can go back and be in a ska band again.
that's true. That's true. It worked for Rico Rodriguez.
Or
Do
the
you know what I mean?
Coconuts.
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
about being the kid coconut in some ska band. That was really what I wanted to do in college. Was I wanted to be the guy that would sit on the side of the stage playing the Coconuts for some New York City ska band.
I played the saxophone. Unfortunately it was for church, but you always have to that's how most people started anyway. Start in the church and then find your way doing the devil's music and then, find a happy medium. That's my view.
So what are we in? We're 2 minutes in. We've not mentioned chocolate once.
No, and we've sort of veered towards devil worship. So yeah, always a good sign.
But I'm trying to figure out what the poster behind you is. That's what I'm looking at, like over your right-hand shoulder.
The harder they come.
Oh, see, so I could have gone Jimmy Cliff, and then it would have been appropriate.
Signed poster. Sometimes you got to work that connection, and that connection worked that time. Signed poster from Harder They Come by Jimmy Cliff. Always good. Always a good sign.
Got it. Yeah. All right. So Nick, thanks a bunch for joining us today. And so you are the main proprietor, one of the main proprietors. Is that a fair way to put it?
It's like me, the wife, and the dog. Yes. So
the dog owns 34%.
Yeah, he's like major shareholder. When we need seed capital, we go to Spot. No,
Do you really have a dog named Spot?
Yeah, of course. There's a wonderful, wonderful dog shelter on the other side of the island, Montego Bay. And it's run by this absolutely amazing, bonkers Jamaican who came out of Cornwall in England, Jamaican family. And she rescues dogs. And she gets some new homes in the US and Canada. And we got Spot, named by her 7-year-old daughter. He's a great dog, great dog. Anyway.
So you guys all are the proprietors of 11 Cacao in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is a bean-to-bar.
It's a bean-to-bar chocolate company. Do you want a potted history? Do you want me to get into that real quick?
Yeah, so I mean, let's do that first. So rewind. I'm trying to think. We met, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
2016, November 2016, a time which will remain with us in history for a long time. Regardless of one's politics. And yeah, it was literally the day after the elections at the unconference
in
Seattle,
Washington, where I was probably representing Tom Rick at a trade show later that weekend, and you were just being the chocolate guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful little tale. So I kind of got into chocolate making by sort of accident, happenstance. I was working for the BBC as a reporter in Jamaica. I'd been North America radio correspondent a few years before that. So I ended up doing a piece on sustainable tourism in Grenada. And one of the people I interviewed for it was a guy called Mott Green, who was one of the co-founders of the Grenada Chocolate Company, one of the first real bean-to-bar chocolate makers. And so kind of at the end of the interview, I was pretty inspired by him. I always say to people that he was actually a lot of hard work. He was really challenging in a good way during the interview, kind of pushing me at every question, almost flipping it back at me in terms of why I was doing it, what I was trying to achieve. But when he told me the story and how it was impacting the people there, that kind of really stuck with me. A few years later, I ended up starting to make chocolate, and then the rest is history,
But you touched on that. But you were born in Jamaica.
I was born in the UK.
You were born in the UK.
Yeah.
Jamaican parents.
Jamaican parents, they were part of the Windrush generation, the people who left after the Second World War to help rebuild the infrastructure in the UK. So they went across there, and then they basically had very strong connections to the island, but honestly, they couldn't afford to go back. That was often the way it was back then, because it was such a long way. So I had all of this stuff, all of these sort of retentions being passed down to me at every given opportunity.
But not a culinary guy at all. You went to school
No,
for
not at all.
for communications or something else like that.
Yep, absolutely. A psychology degree, and then postgrad in journalism, and then went across. I sort of worked at the equivalent of like an NBC affiliate, and then went across to the BBC, and then worked my way up through there from a trainee to a correspondent. So I did pretty well. With the BBC.
Kind of traveled the world a little bit, right? I mean, you and I talked a little bit. I mean, you got to see some really lots of stuff.
Yeah. And I was kind of ready for a change. And I think Mott really kind of brought that out. You know, I know we live in an age now where people talk about fake news, and I don't go down that route. But when you see the same stories happening with regularity and nothing really changing in terms of the world and how you want to be an impact on the world, looking at what Mott was doing in Grenada was really captivating to me, because I could see that he had done something. He'd been the change which people often want to be. Simple, really simple. And so that pushed me towards chocolate making, because I could see that something could easily be changed, because the cocoa industry here was at such a relatively low level that you could start to make changes which could hopefully start implementing lives.
Right. But I mean, if we think about Jamaica, I mean, if we think about agricultural resources, we think, I mean, as an American, I mean, we think about coffee, right? I mean, it's sort of like, it's kind of the thing, right? I mean, there's some other stuff too, but we won't get into that, you know. We'll just nip that in the bud.
Yeah, but but useful.
That was really funny, actually. We're going to nip that in the bud.
I like how you took that there. To be fair, though, I mean, one of the things which is amazing is we in the Caribbean, we never benefit from this stuff at the beginning. We're always, you know, I remember a statement which was said at the emancipation when slavery was ended, that, you know, Jamaicans, meaning the sort of people of African descent, would no longer be the sort of you know, carriers of wood and the hodders of water, or something along those lines. You know, that would be the end. It would be a new change. But even with ganja, you know, let's cut to the chase. You know, we're playing catch up to, you know, we've been doing this for like eons. People sent their kids to school on it for like the longest time. And now we can barely get any weed into Canada or the US. I mean, talk about a reversal of fortunes. And, you know, we're now playing catch up to get to an industry which you guys are dominating.
Is that because of the legalization of?
That's because of legalization, and, you know, more proactive moves should have been taken. But it's the same thing as our cacao. It's the same thing as our coffee. You know, we don't get the benefits of it, and that's where the real change comes.
Yeah. So for those of you that tune into this program a lot, everybody knows that I do a pre-interview with our guests. Sometimes we do that online, and sometimes we don't. Nick and I talked on WhatsApp earlier in the week, and we joked that we spent 50 minutes on the phone and we should have saved some of that stuff. But and usually we do because it's on Instagram. But anyway,
yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about some of that kind of stuff, right? And you don't use the word origin.
I don't.
And I
sometimes
promised I wasn't going to use it, and I wrote down the word that I'm supposed to use, and I left it on my desk. And but you use the term
countries. I prefer
producer
the term producer countries. Yeah.
Right. That origin smacks of colonialism.
I think the way it can be used can weirdly. I don't. You know, I'm not like one of these sort of go around militant types. You know, I'm just a black guy with sensibilities. And sometimes the use of the term origin, you know, going to origin as a prime example, just kind of makes me feel a little bit funny. You know.
It is a little Downton Abbey-esque.
Yeah, it is a little bit like, you know, I remember going down the Zambezi once upon a time. It was amazing. You know, it just doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel quite right.
Right. But anyway, producer countries, and Eric Case and I had a long talk about this last week too, where Eric works for Cho, and he's where they are trying to be more participants
Yeah.
in the process rather than beneficiaries of the process.
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, yeah. I mean, the problem is that it still goes into. I just don't like the idea that we're only useful for beans.
Right, but right, but I mean, I think, and so where I was going was thinking about, at some point in my career, I worked for this kitchen company in Philadelphia, right, and we sold coffee, right, and Jamaican coffee was held up in this, esteem,
Yeah.
right, Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee,
Yeah.
right, and then was it really Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee because we're just getting a premium? Like, who's the beneficiary of the fact that it was at that point $4 more a pound, so it was $12
Yeah.
a pound, which is like what Maxwell House now, right? I mean, but anyway, that notwithstanding, who was getting the benefit, right? Like we talked about this the other day. Who gets the benefit of certified organic cacao? Who gets the benefit of Rainforest Alliance, whatever it is, really, right?
Literally, I see a couple of people who've come on. Ingrid, who just popped on a second ago, like using technology can make a huge difference, I think, in terms of like blockchain and stuff like that, in order for us to be able to better understand sort of traceability of the product. But I'm just kind of tired of when I first got into craft chocolate, I saw so much about how we can try and make improve a lot of farmers and how what we're doing to work with our farmer partners. And nobody was talking about doing stuff in country. Nobody was talking about producing chocolates in the country, passing on the expertise in the country. And I remember asking one very, very prominent chocolate company, why didn't they do that? And they said, well, we like living, on the coast which we live. And that's their choice. That's their business. I get it. But at the same time, don't use that word, and sort of talk about how important it is to have these connections with your farmers and your farmer partners if you don't want to do more than just buy beans. I believe that the real change will come about when more of the farmers, and I mean really the farmers, not your distributor who literally has got more money than what you do, can benefit, but when the actual people who are in the fields barely trying to work out if they can still do cocoa as an option are starting to see some of the benefits. And that's a reality here in Jamaica.
Well, you expressed that to me the other day, right? That like you have a real fear that group of people, that farmer, that tenant farmer, whatever it is going to disappear.
Yeah, 100%. It's the age. The age of the farmers, number one. Number two, they get no money. I mean, like, rural poverty is a thing. It's not. And again, maybe that's one of the benefits of being in country. I see this. I don't pop in and pop out. I'm not a local hire. I have to have a relationship with people. And when I have that relationship with people, I see that nothing is changing. And I've been in chocolate now for since 2015, and it's got worse. The situation's worse than when I started. But
the challenge, I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the flip side of that challenge, though, is that okay? So you make some really fine chocolate, right? I mean, I've tasted some of the things that you've done, and you're doing things not on a huge scale, but on a smaller scale at producer country.
Yeah.
Right. But the challenge is, who do you sell it to, right? And so, in theory, you have a captured audience of tourism, unless there's a global pandemic, in which case nobody's coming to your country, right? So you have hotels and you have places where you can sell that to, right, to a certain degree, unless there's a problem. And if I want to order artisan chocolate from a bean to bar manufacturer in the U.S., I have 100 to choose from, right? So I go online, I put an order in, I put my American Express card down, and 2 days later a box arrives and I get chocolate.
Yeah.
And the shipping's substantial, but it's not the end of the world. Right. The bars are $12 a piece, so I spend $60 in chocolate. I spend $15 in shipping.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the end of the world. You don't have that same luxury, right? Like you don't have the same abilities because
of the cost.
Because of the cost, right? So, okay, so I'm going to order the same $12 bars of chocolate at $60, and then my FedEx bill is $45.
The same. Yeah. Or more. You know, people buy chocolate, but maybe that's where we're going wrong. Maybe our consumerism is based on exploitation rather than ethics. And the ethics of buying quality food means that maybe you pay a little bit more for it. You know,
I'm down with that. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I mean, I think the challenge is really the model is you've got to put a container load on a boat.
Oh yeah.
And
it's
ship
not
it
going
to
to happen.
Whole Foods or wherever you need to.
I know that isn't going to happen. I think, you know, I'm going to misquote Dylan from Manoa, but he always says that he hopes to see like the same as you have wine regions, you would have cocoa regions, and when people come here, we can play a role within the education of why people need to pay more for chocolate. When I do, I do a lot of stuff now where I explain to people about how chocolate is made, because people don't know, right? They do not understand how much work it takes, not from the bean to the bar, but from, you know, the tree to the bean is like literally a lifetime's work, right? We need to explain to people where that ties in, okay? And we need to make that very, very clear. In my mind, I think we have 4 million people who come here every year. And if we can hammer it home in a good way, someone's saying appellation. I like that. I like appellation. But yeah, if we can hammer that home in appellations, if we can, you know, sort of make use of GIs and all of that sort of stuff to make people understand the importance of these areas, these regions, and the quality of cacao which comes from here, the historical significance, it's easier to swallow the pill. It's easier to change people's minds.
Right. I mean, Eric reminded us last week that there are a lot of people with their hand in the pot.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are. I mean, and again, I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but I mean, you've got your hand in the pot too, right? Yeah. I mean, you don't have your hand in the pot maybe the same way that some of the big chocolate companies do, but you're. I mean,
I make a miserable living making chocolate. No, you're absolutely right.
Right. I mean, I'm not trying to pick on you about that. I mean,
no,
Nick,
no.
I'm just sort of thinking that like it becomes this really complicated issue, right? And it's the whole global agricultural thing, right? And it's exacerbated because for a lot of reasons that we're talking about. Right.
Listen, I agree completely. I remember when I first started, one of the things, you know, you're writing out your mission statement, and I was like, you know, I want to be, you know, part of that change and encourage more chocolate makers. And like every new chocolate maker who comes into Jamaica, I'm like, damn it, you know, it's like even more competition. You know, how am I going to survive? But stop it, stop doing it. You know, right. But at the same time, you know, sometimes I honestly think of this, okay, in a patriotic way. A lot of people talk about patriotism at the moment, and it's completely misguided. I honestly think patriotism is about what you can do to make your country better, to make it better for the country persons where you are. And I think that, yeah, I always kind of misquote Martin Luther King. I may not make it to the other side and see over the mountain, right? My business may not make it. But if there are people who can come in, who can commit to putting in place things which are going to allow for this to become a sustainable industry in Jamaica, I am not going to stand in their way. I may get a little bit peed off because I'm seeing more and more of my market share disappearing, right? But ultimately, it's bigger than me. This is way bigger than me. It's way bigger. You're right about people having their hands in the pot, but it's bigger than me. And it's bigger. It's bigger than the people who have had their hands in the pot for generations. We need to figure a way now to be able to try and work past that. and that requires cooperation. It means that within the region, we need to figure out ways to be able to get our chocolate to market. I'm going to say one quick thing. I remember talking to Dan from French Broad at that same chocolate festival, and I said, nothing will change until you guys see us as competition, right? And you're right. One of the big problems is we face hurdles in terms of transportation, which are nightmarish. But until we figure a way to be able to get more market share, we're going to have these constant struggles, and it's going to be difficult for us to make money because we don't have a large enough population here in Jamaica, as a prime example, who can afford a $10, $12 bar. It's just that simple. I've worked out about our upper class is about 29,000 people in a population of 3 million. That sounds like a lot, but it's not.
No, and truth be told, like it's always, it is an uncomfortable conversation too, right? This whole conversation, if you're in the business of chocolate, right? And I'm not in the business the way you're in the business, right? Like I'm not producing chocolate. I'm not producing finished chocolate. I'm helping to provide means to do all those things. It's sort of one of those conversations that you and I have a lot where I kind of want to do this number.
It's the
I'll
thing
be
is,
right. You guys finish that conversation, come up with a solution, and I'll be right back.
Oh, is that
you know what I mean?
Ingrid?
Like,
right. Well, one of the things I love about the US is how your internet is so sucky in so many places. Right, Jamaica's internet is like, we've got like submarine pipes all over the shop, so our internet is pretty good. But Ingrid raises some good points about cooperation for education, and I agree. But within the Caribbean, we also have to. There's another elephant in the room, which is we don't play well together. Historically, we're always in competition with each other. From emancipation and before that, it meant that people basically had to look out for themselves to survive. And when Eric and yourself were talking about the hand in the cookie pot, that's one of the reasons why it happens. Because when you see an opportunity, you have to grab it, and that's what people have done. But as I said, the patriotism requires, going back to Ingrid's point, cooperation for education. We need to work together, and we need to see past, our immediate survival, and look towards how we can benefit more people. There's got to be some way where it can all fit together.
All right. So you've talked to way more people than I have in your career. So there comes a point where, like, all right, I'm going to put a bookmark right there, and we're going to move on. Because I don't want to dismiss the conversation because I think it's a really critical conversation, but I want to hear more about kind of like 1-1 and
okay.
Like equipment, like how much chocolate can you produce? Like all those kind of like nuts and bolts questions too about, like what you guys really do to improve.
So one of the things I realized, and this is no diss to Tomrick, was that you can get into a bit of an arms race for equipment. And I realized very quickly that was not going to do me any good. Again, because of the size of the market. So I started small. You can see my Cacao grinders maybe just over my shoulder, the little ones. So we have this space, which is what I use at the moment for experimenting in. And we've got a little facility on the north coast of the island. When I say a little facility, it's basically like, it's like a room, which is about, 500 square foot. And I've managed to squeeze in somehow a couple of the big Cacao grounders in there. And, I've got a couple of fluid bed roasters, and we make chocolate.
Nice.
But in terms of numbers, we were doing quite well with hotels before all of this happened. And then we've had to scale back significantly. I remember seeing one of the hotels which we work with, and we were supplying chocolates for weddings for them, and I was like, hey, when are you going to do an order? This is like March the 15th, and they were like, no, it's gone. And from that point I realized that we'd have to significantly figure a way to get around this. But yeah, honestly, I'm going to say that Cacao have been a great partner in regards to the grinders which they make. I'm going to be honest, I remember seeing one of their videos. I think they had done something with one of the people from the Cacao of Excellence program, and they use it. I think they use Cacao grounders for their evaluation, and I was like, okay, that works. And so I went with that brand, and I've been with them ever since. And I bought equipment secondhand, scouring like websites. There's a very prominent website where you can pick up equipment every once in a while, and I went on there, found a few bits and pieces, and that's how we continued. I know you sell wonderful sell me equipment, and I would be over the moon to get like an automatic tempering machine. That would be me made. But man, I don't need it. When you do the math,
Today,
you need to have
you don't need it today.
Sorry, I don't need it today. I have
come on, Nick, you got to help me out, because like I got to get continued buy-in for this project for the people I work for. And like, if you tell me like I don't need to sell me equipment ever, then I don't get buy-in. They're like
a very good point.
They're like yanking me off screen.
But what you want is clients who are going to buy and continue buying from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's true. Like, so we look at some of the bean to bar equipment, which is in the lab across the hall, right? And if I really wanted to, we could produce 80 to 100 kilos a day of chocolate every day, like not really working all that hard, right?
Yeah.
And then we would, hold on, where is it? How do I do this? I don't know. And then here, I'll whip around, right? So then, I've got a line right here, right? And down at that end is a molding line where I can produce, 12 bars a minute every day.
I'm sure it's a whole subcategory, but this is chocolate porn, right? You do realize that?
What is?
Just that line. That line is like, people are there like drooling.
Yeah, we could go back here. We could like go back.
Bring it back.
So, right. So, I mean, it's a 12-meter tunnel, with a molding deposit. You know what the beauty, and I never do this. So the marketing team's really happy that I'm doing it today, is this guy. And this is the Loreca bar wrapper, right, for doing foil and paper wrap, right? All at once, and does something like 30 bars a minute or something like that.
Brian, right, you're not really a true bean to bar maker until you've got calluses, right? Come on. That's just cheating. You're right. Okay, so somebody just commented, you got to be able to sell 12 bars a minute. And yeah, that's the point, right? And I think I know that. I mean, we know that. And, until you can like fold a foil like in your sleep. But there are starting to be some of those manufacturers that are getting to that level, right? I mean, and we know who they are. I mean, there's one on the East Coast. There's one in the middle, right? There's really like 3 or 4. Right. But it's good.
It's happening. Right. But
that's great to see. And I assure you, I will be going to your company. There's one other company I would probably be interested in getting equipment from as well. And I will do that. I love the machines. What I will say is I want to be at a stage where I need your machines, where I'm maximizing the machines rather than it be it's a nice thing to have.
Right, and it's interesting. I was talking to a bean to bar manufacturer today who have a tempering unit from us. It was a small one, 10 kg. They've had it for like 3 or 4 years, and we were having a talk about output. So they're grinding in stone mills, and they're doing sort of normal traditional process. And he didn't want to talk to me about a ball mill, right? He didn't want to talk to me about a new roaster from Selmy. He wanted to talk about tempering units because that's where the rubber really hits the road for them.
Yeah,
and the difference between being able to temper 10 kg at a time and 25 kg at a time will be huge for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge, right? So where do you put chocolate when it comes out of the grinder, right? I'm like, just put it in the machine.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about this sort of ancillary step. And I think our industry, or the bean to bar industry, as one of the industries that we're in, is evolving, right? And some of it probably not for the best to our previous conversation, but not best for the producer countries.
Yeah,
right?
It's not. Absolutely. But I would love to see more of that equipment heading in this direction. So we need to figure ways to be able to make that happen.
Right, and what's interesting is that when we start talking to people, so this project I've gotten to talk to people all over, right?
Yeah.
And really how hard it is to operate a business in 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 a producer country,
Yeah.
right? We were talking with a confection manufacturer in Ghana a
Yeah.
couple months ago, right? You know, so first of all, there's no money available, right? So there's no like walking in and borrowing cash,
Yeah.
right? And especially for this person who was a woman, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it creates a whole other issue, right?
Yeah.
Then in Ghana, you're not even allowed Ghana beans. Like they're all export. So you need a special permission to get beans when it's your number one export, right? It's your number one. It's your number one. It's your number one cash crop, and you can't buy them in country because
Yeah.
you're earmarked to go, which means those dollars are going somewhere else,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Then power,
Yep.
right? So we have power most of the time, but I have a generator, right? Then, right,
A three-phase generator or just a generator?
I don't even know. We didn't even get that deep. Like then she needed to dig a well because she needed consistent water supply.
Yeah.
And she's in Accra. Like she's not like out in the fields of Ghana. She's in the right. So this whole issue. I mean, we're back to the issue. I tried to like bookmark and move away from.
I know. But the thing is, it's always gonna. It's like when I was watching COVID. Sounds like a Netflix series. When I was watching COVID, when I was watching it, how it was all unfolding on the bean to bar industry, and everybody was doing like curbside pickup, and they were shipping their chocolates, and I was just like going, "Oh my god, I can't even imagine that." Do you know what I mean? The idea of like, oh look, client's just gonna roll up, and I'm just gonna give them chocolate. It's just not gonna happen here. It's just not the way, and.
I don't want dollars. So you were at 100% in March, and this January you are at what percentage of your business?
Say that again.
You were at 100% of business in March, whatever 100 is. I don't want dollar figures. What's today's number, percentage-wise, of where you were last March?
Today I'm probably about 75, 80.
Oh, okay.
But that's because I pivoted like a mother, like you wouldn't believe. So I, as I said, I used to be a journalist, and so I now use a lot of my journalism skills to do chocolate education, and hopefully I have some halfway decent communication skills. And I've had some great.
I'm on the fence about that, by the way.
A little bit. It's been good. It's been good, and I have, again, for me, I think it's important. It's important to give people a view of Jamaica. It's important to keep Jamaica in people's minds, and so when the world reopens, they'll think of Jamaica as being a place where they want to come. They'll think of Jamaica and chocolate. They'll think of Jamaica and me. So because of that, we've had some exceptionally good, like Christmas was fantastic, and because of that, we were also getting people wanting to, the only way I can describe it is like a Kickstarter, where they're actually now going to our website and ordering chocolate bars, because they're losing on the shipping, but they're doing it because I've told them about what we're trying to do, and they buy into that, you know.
So here's the plug. So Nick, you're doing virtual experiences on Airbnb. So I can sign up and get a lesson on how chocolate's made. I can also get a tour of plantation. I can get a tour of growing regions. Is that true too?
I give a virtual tour of growing regions. I teach them basic tempering, and they come away with their own bars at the end of the day. So it's really straightforward, really simple. But we've got cameras hooked up so that they can see around the property. They can look down on Kingston. They can get an idea of what it's like, here in Jamaica.
So what do? I go to Airbnb.
You go to Airbnb and you put in make chocolate with a maker or something like that. And that's it. It's actually one of the most popular experiences on the site, which has been useful. But I realized pretty quickly with my managing director, Spot, doing those walks in the morning, I needed to find a way to make money. And tourism was always our main form of income. And so this is a way of doing it. You know, it's a way of connecting people. People are stuck at home, right? People are missing connection. And if you can provide that connection, not only am I making money, but it's also good for their mental health. It's good for my mental health. I've found it wonderful to be able to connect with people all over the world, you know, from the Arctic Circle, you know, all the way down to, you know, South America and Brazil, who are interested in chocolate, you know, and to me, those connections are things which we really miss. And there's only so much you can get from paddling around your four walls and watching Disney Plus and Amazon and Netflix. You know, we need more. We're
Do you have Disney Plus in Jamaica?
With VPN, you have anything.
I don't want to know. You just said that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going on Signal anytime soon. I assure you of that.
I don't even know what that means.
You don't know what okay. I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know. I give Disney Plus and Netflix my credit card number every month, and it works.
Yeah, and every month, and that's it. It goes away. And Deezer, I use Deezer for my music rather than Spotify. So the connections are important, right? And I like to be able to tell people about the history of Jamaica, because a lot of our history kind of links with, you know, most of my clients are from the US, right? And, you know, Hamilton wasn't the only person from the Caribbean who played a significant role in, you know, American history. So, you know, you bring across the links with Sir Hans Sloane and hot chocolate. You bring along the links of the Penn family, the Dallas family, and how they play roles in founding cities, states, and whatever. And people are interested. You know, people are interested.
Are you Jamaican or British? Yes.
It's a hard one, because I think wherever you spend your formative years play the biggest role in your life, and they give you your worldview. But now, you know, this is the place I've spent the second largest amount of my time. You know, in a few years, I'd have spent more time here than I would have done in the UK. So, you know, I can't chat patois. When I attempt, it comes out really badly. And my dad actually always used to laugh at me when I would try and do it. So I don't even bother anymore. But yeah, I remember when I used to fly in, coming back from stories around the Caribbean. I remember once I was flying into Kingston Harbour, and as you fly into the airport at Norman Manley, you have to go across the Palisadoes. It's a peninsula. And as you fly in, I just remember flying over St. Thomas and then the mountains at the Blue Mountains and coming into land. And I just felt home. So, you know, home. Yeah, I felt home.
Couple things on that comment. I had a girlfriend in college, right? Who when I would go back to school, I'd be saying I got to go home, and when I come back to Philly, I'd say I'm coming home. And she said, you know, Brian, home is where you have your heart, and home is where you hang your hat. And you know, I kind of feel that, like, Buffalo's become my home. Like, I never intended it for it to be my home, but you know, my daughter was born here, and it's home.
Yeah.
But if you really want to get down to brass tacks, I'm a Philadelphian, and I'll have that cheesesteak conversation with you. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about, you know, being able to be different places and different experiences. So, hey, somebody asked, your Instagram is 11 Cacao.
Yeah.
Because somebody just asked that question, and I didn't want to.
Yeah, so the Instagram is 11 Cacao. There's a saying in I always say it's Jamaica, but it's in the English-speaking Caribbean. 11 cocoa, full basket. So that means one cocoa bean at a time, one cocoa pod at a time. Little by little, you achieve your goals. You get to where you need to be by doing a little bit every day. You may not attain the world overnight, but it will happen if you do a little bit at a time. So that's kind of how I feel. That's, going into chocolate, you kind of need money. It's one thing everybody doesn't tell you, right? Or you've got to have an amazing market where you are selling chocolate with just.
Well, you got all that mad BBC money.
What's that? Sorry?
You got all that mad BBC money, all the money, that you've got.
Oh yeah, because they're loaded with their fake news and everything. So no, it's you need to have the cash, right? Or you need to have a great market, or you need to be a brilliant business person to be able to almost. It's tough, man. Nobody says that. You know, I often go onto the various, well-tempered or, bean to bar chocolate chats and all these things. And nobody tells you how hard it's going to be. You know, this is like my 5th year of doing this, and it's tough. And I don't actually know when it's going to get easier. I don't know when it's going to get easier. And so, at some stage, these greys are getting more and more. And for anybody who knows me in Jamaica, my locks, they didn't fall out, just in case anyone's worried, right? They actually were, I just had to get rid of them because I was turning into like the guy from Steel Pulse with like a single mono dread because I wasn't retwisting it myself. It's just like kind of looking embarrassing. It's just like up there, and I was like, it's a good look, but the weekend can pull it off. I can't. Do you know what I mean? It's like me wearing tight jeans. It's a bad look. It's a bad look. So, I just got rid of it, man. I got rid of it. But seriously, the chocolate making thing is wonderful. I get so much from it from a personal point of view. I really, really, what you said earlier on about, I guess having my finger in there, I guess I do, but I get a lot from trying now to do more. I get significantly more from that than what I ever did doing stuff for the BBC, and so unless it was like big stories like Haiti or something like that, where you actually realize that, telling the truth in the right situation, which what most journalists do, can make a difference in terms of life.
I hear none of you tell the truth ever.
Yeah, apparently so. Apparently it's all a conspiracy. But moving swiftly on, this feels the same. It feels like it kind of does feel like a mission. It does.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is one of those moments where I don't know. I don't know how to There's that expression, do something you love. You'll never work a day in your life. Whatever. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's easier to go to work when you like what you're doing, but it's still work. If it's if it's not work, you're sitting on the beach in Montego Bay with a cocktail in your hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Which is way easier.
Way easier. Doesn't happen as much when you're literally, on your Todd making chocolate. Absolutely.
Or doing whatever. I think that there's something about doing something that is valuable and something that you are passionate about and you enjoy. There's a guy that's on right now, Philip Ashley, who has a chocolate company in Memphis, who I've gotten to know really well in the last couple of months. And, I know he had a really, really hard Christmas. They got their asses handed to him. Sorry, Philip, don't want to give your stories away. Right. And I know he loves what he does. And I know his passion. I get it. But it kicked his ass for 6 weeks. I bet you the man hasn't slept since the middle of November. And yes, Philip, we should all go down. You, me, and
definitely
Nick should all hang out.
Everybody who's on the chat and anyone who's going to watch it after on YouTube, everybody go to Tom's website, come down to Jamaica. We will welcome you with open arms, I assure you.
But I know Christmas kicked his ass. I know it did. And so at somewhere in there, it doesn't matter that you're doing something that is valuable, you enjoy. It's still kicking your ass, right? I love what I do, right? And I'm passionate about chocolate and I'm passionate about teaching, but there are days where it's dude, this has got to be easier. There's got to be an easier way, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, this is kind of culturally, right? The world has been on its ear for the friggin' last 14, I don't know anymore. How long has the world been on its ear? Some people tell me 20 years, right? But I'm telling you that the last year has just been hard, man. It's just been hard.
It has.
I was in Italy a year ago, at CEGIP, thinking the world is great. And the last 12 months have, as much as I've got to talk to great people and I've had all these great experiences, it's just been hard, man, and somebody's putting a comment about their governor, and Katie, but there isn't a right choice.
No.
Right? There's not a right choice about what to do about COVID, and there's not a right choice about to do what's going on politically, and there's no right or wrong. There's a bunch of people just trying to do the best that they can and make it.
Even our I know we all think that our politicians are incompetent, right? But you try and make those decisions as an individual. You try and weigh up the economy and try and weigh up people's lives. And you have, realistically, if we had locked down, if the world had locked down solid, right, the moment it started, people would have been saying for 20 years we overreacted, right? But we now know the consequence of not doing it, and we see the consequence by everything that's happening with these mutations to the virus.
But there are consequences to locking down too, right? I mean, there are consequences to both sides. Economically, and I never want to a single death is a death, and it's important to somebody. And all of that is so relevant. And so the world is just, I mean, I've taken to use the expression when the world starts spinning on its right axis again, right? Because I don't want to hear return to normal, like whatever. But we're fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
The world is fundamentally changed.
A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't want to accept that. And I understand that because, to realize that, we've literally led, regardless of our backgrounds, charmed lives up until this point is a hard thing to accept. That some of the basic freedoms. I was saying to my wife, one of the things I miss, and this is going to sound a bit odd, I miss meeting new people. And, I'm a hugger, right? I love hugging people. And I know that is something I am not going to be able to do for a while,
right.
Because of the uncomfortableness I feel, the uncomfortableness they will feel, the amount of time it's going to take for vaccine to roll out, all of these things. And these are having such huge, and I'm going to be fair to, well, I'm going to just mention Katie for a second. I agree with you, Katie, that it's incredibly difficult. But you guys still are in a country where you have a social safety net of sorts. In so many parts of the world, there is nothing. You have nothing. You have nobody. Nobody's coming to the rescue. There's no money in the pot. There was no money in the pot to start with. And so when you're facing that, literally now you are talking about children who have no food to eat, parents who are making those sorts of same decisions for themselves because there's nothing. There's nothing whatsoever. And so, yeah, you're right. This thing is a nightmare. And, maybe I'm burying my head in the sand, but I am having to figure a way to be able to manage and survive. And, I had to switch off social media. Social media is a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because it's a great way for us to market our businesses, etc., etc. But one of the things which has been really devastating for me is constantly looking at other people's businesses and going, why am I not doing as well as them? And then sort of realizing that I need to disconnect from that because it's just a spiral of negativity. And, it's a false narrative. Because people are just, everything about it is a false narrative, and we need to accept that. And you just need to do what you need to do to be able to keep your business going. And if you can help other people along the way, if you can support other businesses along the way, try and do that. But this thing is kicking our asses, and the only thing which we will have left is the connections. So let's make sure we keep those connections, man.
Right. And that's where, look, and we're doing this on social media. So here's the irony about this, right? I pulled the plug on Facebook in my personal life 3 months ago because it was depressing the shit out of me. Yeah. Because it was either my two friends fighting about their political beliefs or me comparing what I had or didn't have to somebody else. And why isn't why don't I have that car or why don't I have that job? Right. And so I turned social media off in my own life, except for this kind of stuff. Yeah. And you're right. What I love about this kind of stuff is me making a connection with a new person. And Nick, you and I know each other, but we don't know each other real well. We've talked more in the last week than we probably have the 5 years we've known each other. Yeah, yeah. But it's about chocolate. When I'm asking people to interview people, they're like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, well, we're going to talk about chocolate, right? And we've talked about chocolate here, and we've talked about some of the challenges with chocolate. And sometimes we talk about what's your favorite recipe when it's a confectioner. But I'm having the opportunity to meet somebody new, and share that meeting, absolutely, with other people, right? Yeah, and so no, I can't give you a hug, and I wouldn't give you a hug anyway because I'm not a hugger. I'm the anti-hugger, but that has value. But like the whole compare thing, you're right. When I start comparing, like it's a fast slope to like doom and gloom. Because you know what, I can always find somebody that I'm better than, that I can puff my chest out about, and I can always find someone that I'm worse off about and feel badly about myself. And I don't win in either of those cases. I just don't win.
Yeah,
nobody wins.
Nobody wins, and like, you know, one of the things which I really want to do, and actually it doesn't foster cooperation. It actually works against cooperation, because you feel that you can't work with somebody because that's going to give them an even greater advantage in your mind than what they have already. And so, and definitely within the Caribbean, we can't afford to do that. You know, literally, we cannot afford to compartmentalize ourselves, to separate ourselves, when actually the one thing which we should be really focusing on is, and I've said this many a times, Lauren has just come on and I've said it to her before in the past, what we need to focus on is, in the region, doing specialty fine food incredibly well, and also working out the distribution of that as well, because there are great products here, but there's no effective way to be able to get them off island.
Okay. All right. So Instagram's going to cut us off in 6 minutes. And I've got to get to a committee meeting for the Fine Chocolate Industry Association at 3 o'clock.
Ooh, fancy.
I'm chair of the education committee.
Ooh, very important, by the way.
But I can't log in because, like, apparently we still owe money. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So there was one question was, what is your opinion about, like, what's your view on live events through 2021? I don't like chocolate festivals. Right. So I'm with you on that. 2, and I'm hoping that you get all British on this answer.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I'm hoping. I'm steering the answer to this question. I want you to be at home, you know, in Bedfordshire or wherever home was.
Okay, I'll try my best. Yes.
You were coming home from second form. I'm using all like the BBC words I learned from like watching British sitcoms growing up.
Yep.
And you stop into the little mart on your way home to pick up a bottle of probably bitters or something, and
Vimto.
You're gonna grab Ravina. You're gonna grab a bottle of Ravina, and you're gonna grab a mass market candy bar.
Yeah.
What are you gonna buy? You only get one. You get to pick one.
Cadbury's whole nuts straight away. My dad, I always kind of joke about this. My dad would use Cadbury's whole nuts as a incentive device. I think the legal term is blackmail, a way of blackmailing me to do chores or all sorts of stuff around the house. And so that always reminds me of him. And as I said, he played, both my parents played huge roles in me becoming a chocolate maker and, you know, being proud of me doing what I do. So that's the bar. Or if I was feeling really fancy, I know you said one, the Milky Bar. The Milky Bar. That was like my go-to. That was like my champagne of my childhood.
You know, I should have asked the question. You're sitting on the tube station and you have 1 pound. You're going to get one candy bar. That's the way I should have asked that question.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the one that's like a twist that's all aerated and...
Aero. Oof.
No, it was like flaky. Is it the Cadbury Flake?
Yeah, the flake. The Cadbury's Flake, yeah.
That would have been mine. If I'm waiting for the tube. If I'm waiting for the tube at Bayswater.
You know what? The Flake always reminds me of ice cream though. The 99, the sort of soft serve ice cream with the chocolate in there. So that would be my chocolate hit with ice cream.
Cool. All right. So check out Nick at 11 Cacao, both on Instagram, Facebook. You have a website?
Both. Yeah, no, I'm not on YouTube, but every other social network. Yeah.
Great. And then hey, Nick, thanks a bunch.
Hey,
this has been great. I appreciate it. And we'll catch up next time. I've never been to Jamaica, so now I have to come.
Well, there's one thing I have to ask you. Since you guys are doing so much work with the edibles people, I think in future I need to talk to you about how I make that happen.
To do it there or here?
Yeah, well, there, and then import here, or here. And
well, the hard part is we can talk about it more, but the hard part is that they all have to grow in the state that they're using. That's why.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm sure there's a few people here in Jamaica who'd be very interested in the ganja chocolate thing. So, you know, we'll
We'll
talk
talk more about it later. All right. Peace, my brother. We'll talk soon, okay?
later. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye, everybody.